All right, everybody, good morning. We are going to continue to watch the weather the next few days. Here's an update, basically talking about this wedge of cooler air that's going to be moving in, and it's basically coming down the back of the Appalachians, and all the rain this morning is down to the south along that frontal boundary. So overall, what we're seeing is a lot of clouds across the southeast. Here's the rain down towards Birmingham. If you got travel in the Birmingham area down to Montgomery there and towards Auburn, maybe even Tuscaloosa early this morning, there are some showers there. I do want to show you what's going on with the water vapor satellite. This is always a cool image I like to show. What we've got up here to the north, this kind of orange, copper color, yellowish area here. This is a boundary of area high pressure that's dropping to the south, and it's going to sneak in here. And the model guidance has this wedge of cooler air coming in North Georgia, and it'll probably make it at least into far northeast Alabama. And because of that, you'll see as we go through the forecast, the temperatures tomorrow will probably stay in the 60s. Meanwhile, out in the shoals in eastern Mississippi, you're probably going to be right around 80 degrees with that muggy air back. So as far as the severe weather threat today, marginal risk down here for southeast Alabama and Georgia, but these marginal risk, I'm telling you, we could have a marginal risk environment every day in the summer. So again, these are probably a little bit more worrisome, I guess, in the early spring. But again, there's not much of a threat here. Tornado threat is less than 2% in all areas. I want to show you the model guidance here. And what you're going to see, these are the dew points. And what we're looking at here is going to be dew points dropping. Once you see the green coming in, those are dew points in the low 60s and upper 50s. Notice as we go into Thursday morning, this wedge really gets strong. And what we're talking about is this area right here in Georgia, and the wind, these are the wind arrows, they're more easterly here in far northeast Alabama. And that's going to continue to kind of slide to the west all afternoon tomorrow. And this is Friday morning. It still kind of shows up a bit. Friday morning right now looks dry because there's going to be a disturbance coming through from the west. So there's two things going on. There's what we call the short wave coming in from the west, and then from the east we've got this wedge. So in the middle you're going to have all this convergence, we call it. So that's going to be the best chance of rain, and we're going to get to that in a second. But as we go through this, as we get into Saturday, this is a Friday evening, the muggy air comes back, and then here comes the front. There's a front coming in as we get into Saturday, and right now it's not looking great as far as rain goes. I'm going to show you the precip in just a second. We've got a front coming in that's going to increase thunderstorm chances from Saturday morning into the early afternoon the way it looks now. Let me just go long range. I haven't looked at this yet this morning. Overall, another one of these wedge setups comes in probably a week from today. Again, kind of a backdoor. Look at that's really dry there, but that's like 180 hours out into Georgia. So let's talk about rainfall, and then I'm going to get a lot closer here in just a second regarding the rain. So this is going to show you the rain today down to the south. If you're going down to, say, the beaches, you're probably going to deal with showers and thunderstorms there for today. And then as we get into tomorrow morning, here comes that wedge coming in, and it just maybe gets into Madison, Marshall, and DeKalb counties. And as we get into Friday, I know I'm going kind of fast. This is Saturday about 3 o'clock in the morning. There's 7 o'clock in the morning. And we get into, well, and this kind of has it moving out around noon. One of the things you don't see is a lot of the reds here, and that's because the model guidance is fairly low resolution here. Oh, thank you, Gail. Joseph on here. Talking Mama Cruise tomorrow night. We'll get to that in just a second as we get closer. It's going to be tough. I think if the wedge gets far enough west, Joseph, I think it's maybe a little misty, drizzle, and temperatures in the 60s. But if it doesn't get that far, it could be right on the boundary with the thunderstorms. This is going into next week. Really quiet weather. This is Wednesday. So no chance. We got about a 4-day stretch next week with no significant rain. So with that, let me shrink that map there, and let's talk about a bigger view here. This is roughly the European model. And this is today. Notice the rain down to the south. And let me make sure I'm not covering anything up. I am covering up the clock. So I'll just kind of turn this picture-in-picture off. So we've got the rain coming in mainly down south. But as we go through the day, we're going to see that rain slowly develop to the north. So again, this is the Wedge high pressure. I know it's supposed to be in blue, but I drew it in red. I'll draw in blue here coming up in a little bit. But overall, what happens is with a way to explain the Wedge and the cold air damming is that you get the wind coming over the Atlantic. That cool breeze comes over the Appalachians and then it kind of moves into Georgia, and sometimes it's really difficult to figure out where it's going to stop. So this is going to be tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Here comes that backdoor front. Notice how the showers and a few thunder showers here are tracking the wrong direction, so to speak. Kind of an easterly wave component with it too. So that is what happens. It makes it difficult to forecast how far west it's going to be. So we're talking a temperature difference of maybe 20 degrees from the Alabama-Georgia state line to the Alabama-Mississippi state line. As we get into early Friday morning, here's where that wedge breaks down. Still a mostly cloudy start. And there's that cold front we're watching that's going to get here overnight Friday into Saturday morning. It's out there from Wichita to St. Louis to Chicago. So we get a break most of the day Friday. Friday looks really nice, in fact. Huntsville soccer first game at Joe D. Weather looks good for that. So here's Saturday morning. Some of you doing some cruise-ins, car shows, things like that. Here's our challenge, is when is this going to move in? Now the difference between this and last week's setup, last week we didn't have a front pushing everything, so the timing was kind of difficult there. But I think we're trying to getting the timing narrowed down a lot better with these showers here and thunderstorms coming in. So again, that's 6 o'clock in the morning. Higher resolution model data will be out later today on this, so I'll give you a better idea on when that's gonna. We'll update you on that later this afternoon. And again, I'll have another update tomorrow morning. So this is going to be for tomorrow. This is going to be 8 o'clock Thursday morning, northwest Alabama. I'll bring in northeast Alabama here in just a second. But what we're watching here is going to be, again, this easterly wind. How far west is the east wind going to get? So I think we start off dry Thursday morning. Winds, again, east, southeast here at about 8 miles an hour. Notice the clouds are going to increase from east to west. Oh, you're welcome, Herman. They're going to increase from east to west. So overall, the cloudier weather, and we'll get to that in a second, in eastern Alabama, and that's going to lead to temperatures in the 60s. Notice how warm it starts getting around 11 o'clock. And then what's also happening, as I mentioned earlier, you've got this easterly component of the wind, the wedge, moving west. You can kind of see it right here from Moulton to Double Springs and Rogersville. And at the same time, coming in from the west is a shortwave upper air disturbance. So it's basically both of them colliding at the same point, which is going to lead to most likely numerous showers and thunderstorms as you get west of I-65. Notice the wind here. This is another interesting component of the wind. It's with the stronger the wedge, the stronger the wind, and this has a wind around 19 miles an hour, and that's going to be out of the east-southeast. Notice how things really start to light up here from Russellville down towards Phil Campbell, and these storms are just kind of clustering. They're not really going in any particular direction. They're just kind of stuck in between both of those boundaries, the way it appears here. Look at the temperature in Athens at 4 o'clock, 69 degrees. And you're going to see even cooler temperatures farther east as we kind of switch views here. Here's a look at the 5:30 tomorrow evening. Still looking at low clouds, probably poor visibility, and there's possibly going to be some rain still continuing on. As we get into the evening hours tomorrow, the wedge breaks down a bit. We start to see the winds turning more southeast instead of east. And again, the wedge won't be as big of a deal in northwest Alabama as it will in northeast Alabama. And again, it's always a challenge to figure out where that wedge is going to set up. So again, that'll be 8 o'clock tomorrow night. Now we get over here into, I believe we got northeast Alabama here. So here's where you're really going to see the change. This is 8 o'clock Thursday morning. Again, today, if you're just tuning in, we're not expecting much rain at all, just a really nice Wednesday afternoon and evening. And here comes the wedge coming in. Notice the winds southeast here in Fort Payne, 65 degrees at 9 a.m. Chattanooga, widespread showers, thunderstorms, really right along the Georgia, Alabama, and the Georgia-Tennessee state line there in Chattanooga. This will be 10 o'clock in the morning, and notice how the temperatures have dropped. Now, some of this is going to be some rain-cooled air, but you'll see this is going to be fairly persistent most of the day here in DeKalb County, Jackson County, probably Etowah, Cherokee County as well. Update from nothing you guys need to know. So by noon, it's still in the low 60s in Henniger and in Fort Payne. And notice this east wind here moving into Boaz, 63 degrees there. Chattanooga holding at 65. The front end of the wedge at this point is probably somewhere around Huntsville to Arab. And you have the development going on west of I-65 here. This is just before noon tomorrow. So usually what you get in the wedge, the cooled air over here, cold air damming, you get a lot of clouds, low visibility, and drizzle, and occasionally some fog out there too. So notice the boundary shifting west, rain chances shifting west too, but generally very light rain in the wedge. So 3:30 in the afternoon, it is 62 degrees in Fort Payne, 64 in Henniger, but it has warmed up in Chattanooga as the wind's starting to shift more to the south. So as we get later into the day, it's possible this boundary is going to overwhelm the wedge, and we'll see some of this rain move a little bit farther to the east. But overall, pretty much a typical setup here of a wedge, backdoor cold front coming in, and again, your Friday's actually looking pretty good. Yeah, I think, Jameson, that's a good question there. I think we have passed our spring tornado season. A lot of times we just get scud this time of year, and if we get tornado warnings this time of year, a lot of times I will tell you they're false reports. I've seen it happen a lot. You'll get land spouts because you'll get a temperature change with the outside of a thunderstorm. You can get gustnados, things like that. The only thing that really would trigger most likely a tornado this time of year, it would be an out of the ordinary strong cold front, strong momentum built up with a day we have higher shear than normal. And overall, we don't get really strong tornadoes as we get here deeper into the month of May and June. Although there are some changes sometimes, but you're going to know about it. If you just get a tornado warning out of the blue this time of year, chances are it's a fairly weak tornado or, again, a false report. Usually if we're going to have bigger tornadoes, you're going to have plenty of heads up, like at least a day's notice on stuff like that. And the other thing as we get later into summer months is the tropical season picks up, and we do get those landfalling tropical system tornadoes, and they can be as high as EF3, but typically those are stronger along the coast. Yeah, Chris, our 48 radar is down, and it will be down until the foreseeable future. It's about a $200,000 and some repair, and at this point in time, just one of the problems we had with that radar is we actually put too much power to it. We should have gone with a 350,000 watt radar. Instead, we went with the million watt, and it just was frying the magnetron and the power supply. So it was just overperforming. So again, that was kind of a marketing thing, I guess you'd say, wanting to have the most powerful. But, we've been doing pretty good with the local NEXRAD Doppler radars. We've been able to see quite a bit. I think there is still some conversation of potentially putting NEXRAD in somewhere in northeast Mississippi, somewhere in western Tennessee or northwest Alabama to kind of fill that gap. And I think there's some behind the scenes conversations, I'll put it that way, for that. But at this point in time, our radar in Limestone County is a boat anchor over there right now. Let's see. I think let's see. How much rain volume should I expect? You may pick up 3/4 of an inch of rain there tomorrow. Again, I don't think you'll see anything today. So today, kind of drying out of the rain. But I'm going to shut it down. I got a Woody Anderson Ford car show video I've got to edit. I'll be putting that on my YouTube page as well. Again, subscribe while you're here. And there have been some people having problems with getting notifications of when I go live. So I'm not sure what that's all about. So again, I don't know the Facebook algorithms, and I've been using that for years. And I sure don't know the YouTube algorithms. I'm sure it involves me pushing money to promote my channel, and we're not going to do that. We're just going to keep going the way we're going, and whoever shows up to the party shows up. You guys take care again. Have a good Wednesday, halfway through the work week.